The cameras roll. The studio lights are warm, gentle, and golden. Not the harsh white typically used for television. There's something different in the air tonight, something sacred. The set is silent, holding its breath, as two legendary men sit across from each other. Keanu Reeves dressed in simple black, his posture relaxed but his eyes alert, not with suspicion, but with stillness. Like someone who's been through fire and now knows how to carry silence like armor. Samuel L. Jackson, commanding, charismatic, but tonight, something in his tone is lower, softer. He's not here to act. Not tonight. Between them sits a table, with nothing but 2 glasses of water and a single microphone. No notes, no scripts, no safety net. Just presence. The talk show host, a rising face in late-night interviews, had introduced them with excitement, expecting laughter, stories, of movie sets, maybe even a few light jabs. But what followed was something no one in the studio or watching at home would ever forget. Because in a moment of unexpected quiet, Samuel L. Jackson turned to Keanu Reeves, looked him straight in the eyes, and said just one sentence. One sentence, calm, unscripted, and quietly devastating, that shattered every wall Keanu had ever built. The studio audience froze. No gasps, no applause, just stillness. Keanu, his lips parted slightly. His hand moved instinctively to the small silver cross around his neck. He looked down, and when he looked up again, his eyes were wet. Not from shame, from recognition, from truth, from something no Hollywood script had ever given him. A mirror. And as the first tear fell down his cheek, Samuel leaned back and said nothing more. He didn't need to, because that one sentence, only known to them for now, had cracked open something sacred, and the world was about to witness the conversation of a lifetime. The interview hadn't started this way. Before the silence, before the tear, before the shift, there was tension. Subtle, quiet, but present like smoke before fire. Host. Tonight, we have a special episode. 2 legends. But more than that, 2 men who've walked through fire. Let's see what happens when they sit down with nothing but honesty between them. The crowd claps. It's not thunderous, not like usual. Maybe they sense it too. Something about tonight isn't just for entertainment. Mr. Jackson. Well, I thought I was coming here to have some fun, man. Talk a little smack. Maybe tell the story about that one time I nearly knocked over a light. Rig on set. Laughter from the audience, warm, familiar. Keanu. And I thought I was here to listen. Turns out I might have to do some talking too. More laughter. But underneath something else brews. A feeling that tonight someone's heart is being asked to show up bare. Then the shift. The host leans forward trying to steer the conversation. Maybe they were briefed. Maybe this was pre-planned, or maybe they were just chasing ratings. But the tone takes a turn. Sharper, more probing. Host. Let's be honest here. You both have been through some heavy things. Death, loss, public pressure. But Keanu, you don't really talk about it. You hide it all behind that stillness. Is that silence really strength? Or is it fear? The words hang in the air like a challenge. Keanu. He doesn't respond right away. He simply looks ahead, jaw steady, hands folded. And in that pause, the imbalance begins. The host, emboldened by the silence, pushes further. Host. People say, you're humble. But maybe it's just you hiding behind sadness. You play quiet. Characters. You walk alone. You avoid headlines. But what if that's not depth? What if it's just hiding? A ripple moves through the audience. Samuel turns toward Keanu, brow furrowing slightly. He can feel it. So can we. Something sacred is about to be tested, and someone is about to go too far. The room shifts again, subtly, but unmistakably. The host leans back in their chair, now more confident. They mistake Keanu's silence for surrender. A miscalculation that's about to cost them dearly. Host. You see, I think people confuse mystery for meaning. Not saying much doesn't always mean there's something deep behind it. Sometimes it just means there's nothing to say. The audience laughs. Not because it's funny, but because they feel they're supposed to. It's the kind of laughter that tries to fill an awkward space. Samuel. His face darkens slightly. He shifts in his seat. He knows this road. He's seen people get pushed until they break or disappear. Mr. Jackson. Hold up. You're talking to a man who's been through more than half this room could imagine. You sure you want to go there? The host smiles, tight, forced, unaware they're playing with fire. Host, I'm just saying, sometimes silence is a performance too, and maybe we've been clapping for the wrong act. Keanu, still silent, but this time he closes his eyes for a moment, not out of defeat, but to breathe. To hold himself steady while the world plays games with pain. A soft murmur runs through the studio. Mr. Jackson, you don't know what you're talking about, host. Don't I? Or are we just too afraid to admit that some of our icons are empty? That's when the line is crossed, the room stills. Even the crew members behind the camera stop moving. Keanu. He slowly opens his eyes, and what they carry is not anger, not sadness, but something more dangerous to anyone who thrives on control. Certainty. He gently touches the cross around his neck once again. The audience begins to feel it, the tension, the edge, the weight of what's not being said. And Samuel leans forward, eyes locked on the host. Mr. Jackson, you just poked a man carrying more pain than your whole cue card stack can hold. You sure you're still in control of this? But the host isn't listening. They think they're winning. They have no idea what's coming. Host. Keanu, you carry yourself like some kind of monk. But this isn't a monastery. This is real life. And, maybe, it's time someone stopped treating you like a saint. The words land like a slap. Not loud, but cutting. The audience freezes. A few forced chuckles echo, but they die quickly in the silence that follows. Keanu. He doesn't flinch, doesn't speak, but he lowers his head slightly, his hair falling gently over his face like a curtain, not to hide, but to absorb. Mr. Jackson shifts in his chair again, hands clenched. His jaw tightens, his voice now holding back more than just words. Mr. Jackson. That's enough. Host. No, it's not. You see, when someone hides behind silence long enough, people start building myths around them. Maybe it's time someone told the truth. The host reaches below the desk and pulls out a printed sheet, a scripted dossier, clearly pre-planned. Host, I did some research. Everyone loves the sad Keanu stories. But did you know this man once refused interviews for 5 years? Turned down awards, avoided Hollywood dinners. He doesn't speak because he's deep. He's silent because he's afraid. The audience murmurs. Confusion, tension, a few heads turn. The host presses on. Host. Maybe the pain we all admire isn't strength at all. Maybe it's just emotional avoidance dressed up as grace. And there it is. The moment. The attack in full. Keanu. Still, he doesn't defend himself. He simply looks up, eyes calm, but filled with something ancient, something unmovable. He touches the crucifix again, this time slower. But this time the silence isn't his. Mr. Jackson stands. The audience gasps. He doesn't raise his voice, but the weight in his tone makes every word fall like thunder. Mr. Jackson, you just confused humility with fear. That's not just insulting, it's ignorant. The host tries to smile, but even they feel it now. The shift. The crowd is no longer laughing. But for Keanu, this is the lowest point. Judged for being soft, mocked for carrying pain with dignity, humiliated, in the name of television. But what no one knows is that this was the moment the world would begin to see who he really was. The air in the studio is thick. The host sits tall, arms folded in smug satisfaction, as if they've just dismantled a myth on live television. The audience sits frozen, uncertain, caught between disbelief and discomfort. Mr. Jackson, still standing, still burning. Mr. Jackson, you really think you're doing something brave, don't you? Host, I'm doing what people are too afraid to do. Challenge the silence. Mr. Jackson, no, you're not challenging silence. You're attacking the only man in this room who knows how to carry it with honor. The host rolls their eyes. Host, please, don't turn this into some philosophical sermon. He's an actor, not a prophet. The room stiffens. Then, Keanu finally speaks. Not loud, not dramatic, but quiet, direct, like the truth doesn't need a spotlight, just a place to land. Keanu, you think silence is empty, but in my life, silence is where I met God. The audience stills. Even the cameras seem to shift slightly, as if drawn closer. Keanu, I didn't turn down interviews because I was afraid. I turned them down because I couldn't lie on cue. Because grief took my voice. And in that quiet, I learned to listen to something deeper. He gently lifts the crucifix from around his neck, letting it catch the studio light. Keanu, this isn't just a necklace. It belonged to someone I lost. She gave it to me the night before she passed, and I wear it not to be praised, but to remember the pain I survived. The host's expression fades. Whatever control they thought they had is unraveling. Mr. Jackson, let me ask you something. How broken does a man have to be for silence to feel safer than applause? The crowd begins to shift. A few hands cover mouths. A woman in the front row wipes her eyes. The power dynamic is no longer in the host's hands. It now sits between two men who have lived pain and chosen to carry it with grace. And the world is about to listen. The host's smirk falters. Their fingers fidget with the cue cards on the table, suddenly aware that they're not holding the conversation anymore. Something else. Something unseen is Keanu. His voice remains calm. But this time, there's something deeper behind it. A stillness that speaks louder than confrontation. Keanu, you asked if silence is fear. But real fear is needing noise to feel strong. He doesn't look at the host. He looks at the audience. And in that moment, every person in the room feels like he's speaking directly to them. Keanu, I've been through rooms filled with noise, applause, awards, interviews. But none of that held me when I lost my daughter. None of that stayed with me the night Jennifer died. Silence did. The host shifts in their chair, trying to recover. Host, look, I'm not trying to insult you. I'm trying to ask the questions that nobody else has the guts to ask. Mr. Jackson, no, you're trying to break a man with something you can't measure. You think pain is theatrical. But real pain, it's quiet, it waits, it walks into studios wearing a cross and answers nothing. Until now. The crowd begins to stir, not in laughter or shock, but in reverence. Keanu, I didn't come here to defend myself, but I also won't apologize for surviving differently than you understand. The host attempts to steer again. Host, but people look up to you. Don't you think you have a responsibility to be transparent? Keanu, transparency isn't measured in interviews. It's measured in how you carry your scars. He leans forward now, not aggressively, but intentionally. Keanu, and I've never hidden mine. I've just chosen not to put them on display for applause. The host stares back, smaller now, rattled. visibly unsure. The audience, once caught in confusion, now sits in silent agreement. The man they once saw as quiet has just started to speak, and the truth he's about to share? It's not for ratings. It's for redemption. The silence stretches, but this time, it's no longer awkward. It's loaded, holy, the kind of silence that doesn't wait to be filled. It demands to be respected. Host. Okay. So now I'm the bad guy for asking questions. The voice wavers. Not a breakdown. Not yet. But it's close. Keanu. No, you're not the bad guy. But sometimes the loudest voice in the room forgets that volume isn't virtue. The crowd shifts again, not in applause, but in agreement. A collective recognition of something true. Host. I just wanted to have a real conversation. Pull back the curtain. Expose the man behind the myth. Mr. Jackson. Congratulations. You didn't expose the man. You exposed your misunderstanding of what makes a man. The host blinks, caught off guard. Mr. Jackson, you tried to find emptiness where there was pain. You tried to provoke a breakdown. What you got was a revelation. Keanu. You see a man who doesn't speak much and assume there's nothing going on. But silence isn't the absence of story. It's often the result of surviving one. The host exhales, leaning back in their chair. For the first time tonight, they look small. Like someone realizing the line between courage and cruelty isn't as wide as they thought. Host. I didn't know. Keanu. That's okay. Most people don't. Because we don't talk about grief on television. We entertain it. We exploit it. But we rarely honor it. He pauses. Then adds, quieter, but with a sting. Keanu. But now you have a choice. You can keep asking questions to make a moment. Or you can listen and maybe make a memory that matters. The host looks down. Not because they're defeated, but because something's beginning to click. The truth isn't loud, but tonight, it's undeniable. The host sits motionless now, staring at their cue cards as if they might rearrange the moment back into safety. But it's too late. The studio isn't the same place it was 20 minutes ago. It's no longer a stage. It's a mirror, and the reflection staring back at them isn't flattering. Mr. Jackson sits back down slowly, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the host. Not angry, just done. Mr. Jackson, you came here to create a clip. Instead, you walked into something sacred. The host swallows hard. Even their voice, always sharp, always in control, sounds smaller now. Host, I was just trying to pull back the layers, to understand what's real behind the silence. Keanu. Then maybe, next time start with respect. Not a spotlight. The crowd erupts, not in applause, but in stillness. A kind of collective emotional inhale. It's not a performance anymore. It's a reckoning. A soft voice rises from the audience. A woman, standing without being asked. Her hands tremble slightly as she speaks. Woman in audience. My son died 2 years ago, and I didn't speak for months. I thought something was wrong with me. But listening to you tonight, Keanu, I finally feel seen. The room falls into a sacred hush. The host's eyes gloss over. Not from emotion they control, but emotion they can't. Host. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I thought this was how you make powerful television, Mr. Jackson. Nah. This is how you make noise, but tonight, you made silence holy. Keanu, we don't need to shame you, but we do need to remind you. You're not the only one on the other side of that microphone. The cameras zoom in slowly, capturing the host as they bow their head, not out of defeat, but realization. This wasn't just an interview gone wrong. It was a soul waking up on live television, and the whole world was watching. The final commercial break ends in silence. When the show returns, there's no theme music, no spotlight panning, no applause sign flashing above the crowd. Just a studio, stripped, raw. A single wide shot captures the three figures on stage. Keanu Reeves sits still, but no longer small. His silence isn't misunderstood anymore. Now it's revered. Mr. Jackson leans back, calm but commanding, like a guardian who knows the storm has passed but not forgotten. And the host avoids the camera now. Their posture is sunken, their face pale. The confidence that once framed their smirk has vanished. In the days that follow, the network quietly removes the episode from its official platforms. But it's too late. Clips have already spread across the internet, not edited for drama, but replayed for depth. Millions repost the moment Keanu lifts the crucifix. Millions more quote the words Samuel said. "You tried to find emptiness where there was pain." The host issues a public apology 2 days later. Host statement. "I thought I was asking brave questions, but all I did was put a spotlight on my own ignorance. To Keanu, and to anyone who carries pain quietly, I'm sorry." The show is placed on hiatus. The host steps away, not fired, not canceled, but removed by something greater than controversy. Accountability. Keanu never speaks about the interview again. He doesn't need to. But 2 weeks later, he's photographed walking through Central Park. A child runs up to him. He kneels down. She hands him a small paper cross. "Child, you were really brave on that show. Mom said you didn't yell, but you still won." Keanu smiles, tucks the cross into his jacket pocket. No cameras catch what he says next, but witnesses swear it was just one word: grace. That night, the studio posted one last message on their socials. "We don't measure men by how loud they speak, but by what they survive in silence." The truth wasn't just heard that night, it was felt. The stage is empty now. No chairs, no lights, no voices. Just the lingering weight of what was said and what was felt. Across the world, people aren't just replaying clips, they're replaying emotions, moments, memories. A teacher shows the video to a group of restless teenagers. By the end, no one is scrolling their phones, not because Keanu was dramatic, but because he was real. A grieving mother in Michigan posts a photo of her husband's necklace. She captions it, "Today, I wore it again, because now I know. Faith doesn't have to shout to be heard." A pastor in Kenya rewrites his sermon. A barista in Germany hangs a paper cross beside the espresso machine, and somewhere in a quiet hospital hallway, a nurse presses play on her phone. She watches Keanu lift that cross. She hears Samuel say, "You don't need a pulpit to preach." She doesn't cry. She just breathes a little deeper. Because sometimes, that's enough. Keanu never posted about the interview. He didn't sign a book deal. He didn't tweet a thank you. But he did something no one expected. He visited a small church on the outskirts of the city. No cameras, no entourage, just him. He sat in the back row during the evening service. And when the choir began to sing, he didn't stand. He just sat, closed his eyes, and smiled, as if the song wasn't for performance, but for peace. The narrator's voice returns one last time. "We live in a world loud with judgment, quick to mock what it doesn't understand, but every once in a while someone reminds us that strength isn't always in speaking. Sometimes strength is found in stillness, in grace, in a sentence so honest, it breaks the walls inside us all." That's what happened the night Samuel L. Jackson said one sentence on live TV, and Keanu Reeves didn't fight back. He simply listened, and the world, for once, listened too. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon, because sometimes one sentence can change everything.